That Sunday, we met homeless school liaison. She asked us if we would bring 10 backpacks. And so we said, well, we'll bring 100 backpacks and we'll get duffel bags and we'll put clothes, at least 2 days of clothes in the backpack. By the end of the week, it was 1,000.
I have a special guest, Joslyn, Berndt, making it all happen. For 20 years, CapCityKids has been a lifeline for students experiencing homelessness.
Homeless school liaison attended our spaghetti dinner, and she says to me at the end, I hope you're not going to go away, because tonight there's 2,000 kids homeless in Austin, Texas, and the average age is 7. I said, ooh, you can't unhear that. I said, I'll be in touch. I think the way you can help the most people, you can call your local homeless school liaison and ask for what needs are. Every city will have a particular need. Someone really needs the hygiene kits, whereas someone needs food.
At the heart of every thriving community is a child who just needed someone to believe in them. And for 20 years, CapCityKids has been that someone. Hello, welcome back to Inside the Vendor Network. I am your host, Yovonne Kenny, and today we have a special episode. So we're going to veer from our normal programming, and I have a special guest for us today. I have spent the last couple days here in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to share with you why. So for 20 years, CapCityKids has been a lifeline for students experiencing homelessness, helping them stay in school and focused on their futures. What started as a simple idea after Hurricane Katrina has grown into a movement impacting thousands of children across the country. Today, we celebrate that legacy with the woman who was the catalyst in making it all happen. Joslyn Berndt Dobson is the managing partner of JDSD Investments Ltd. She is a philanthropist and what some are calling a social scientist, and the co-founder of CapCityKids. In 2005, she and Sean Dobson, alongside Amherst, responded to a crisis in Austin by starting what would become one of the most impactful education support nonprofits in Texas. Today, we celebrate 20 years of impact, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you today, Joslyn. Welcome to Inside the Vendor Network. This is a very special day, and we are going to celebrate 20 years of CapCityKids. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Yovonne. Thank you so much, and what a nice introduction. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. The pleasure is all ours. I just want to take a quick minute and bring the audience up to speed that all of the audience have been following Resi Media at Inside the Vendor Network and our family of podcasts. There's a special arm to Resi Media, and that's ResiGives. That's our philanthropic arm. Last year, I had the personal experience of one of 4 pillars that make up the CapCityKids program, and that's the annual golf tournament where we're raising funds for the initiatives that Joslyn is going to share with us today, how it's evolved into multiple things and not just backpacks. And so let's start with backpacks, right, Joslyn, and school supplies. Today, this mission has grown into so much more, from empowerment academies, internship programs with the University of Texas and social work, holiday gift card initiatives, and just yesterday had the pleasure of golfing in the annual fundraiser. Over $700,000 was raised for the golf tournament. But share with us how this incredible evolution has come to be. When you started with backpacks and school supplies, share with us what happened.
I remember it like it was yesterday. It's hard to believe it was 20 years ago. It was this Sunday, and Hurricane Katrina had hit New Orleans, and CNN was covering it, and it was horrific scenes. I think you probably remember the Superdome. The families were in the Superdome. They didn't have food. They didn't have proper sanitation. It was terrible. And it was about 100,000 homes that were affected. What was different about Katrina than many other hurricanes is what infiltrated the neighborhood was sewer water. So they couldn't go home even when the water subsided. So the state of Texas, being great like it is, offered to take some of these families because they were all going to have to relocate. And sort of as luck has it, the sewer water hit sort of the marginalized neighborhood. So the people really didn't have much, and whatever they had was now in sewer water, and they lost it. They lost everything. So they were showing all these on television, and at the time, I had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And I couldn't help but think about the kids. Like, all of these kids were coming, or lost everything with their families. So we went to church that morning, and our preacher happened to be from New Orleans. And he gave a very vivid sermon about the neighborhood. And he said this could potentially be a bright light because a lot of families live in these neighborhoods for generations and they never get out. So these children were going to come to Austin and they were going to have a new experience. So that resonated with me. So he also gave us a list of places to volunteer, and we had 2 babies and loads of extra baby stuff that we loaded in our Suburban, dropped it off at the community center, and we went to this place called Project Help. And I think many times what would have happened in my life if I wouldn't have driven into Project Help. But what Project Help is, it's the homeless school liaison office for the Austin Independent School District. And admittedly, I never heard of a homeless school liaison before, but we walk in and Sean goes in first and he meets the people. I'm in the car because my 2 children are asleep, and he comes back out and he said, "You got to go in there. You're not going to believe this. You're going to love it." And so he stayed with the children and I went in, and then they woke up and we all went in, and there were 5 women in there led by a wonderful woman called Kathy Riquejo. And these women were preparing to receive a bus from New Orleans to get children in school.
Wow.
So every school district has a homeless school liaison office, and that's where you go and register your child for school if you're homeless. And they connect you to resources and sort of give you the next steps in that particular city of what that family should do next.
Wow. That's an amazing story. I can only imagine you having 2 little ones as well and identifying with being a young mother and looking at another mother. Being a young mother is hard enough, than not to have resources. And, I know I have the blessing of saying I've never been homeless. But my heart broke as you just told that story. And I can see how in your situation, you're like, we've got to do more.
We have to do something. I mean, the TV scenes were horrific, but our preacher really, he was the assistant pastor and he spoke that day. And he talked about the kids were going to experience something new, and perhaps having sewer water go in that neighborhood is not the worst news because there were shanties and shacks in some parts of it.
So you identified a resource that was already in place, and I think that's what's really, really key. As I've studied, and I want to kind of bring the audience up to speed on this today, is you and I had a great conversation yesterday, getting to know one another and talking about this and what we wanted to share with the audience. And so these are public resources that are available that sometimes they don't take advantage of because people don't know about it. And so you introduced a concept to me called public-private partnership. And we'll come back to that a little bit, but I wanted to put that vocabulary out here because your next steps, you were embarking on something and taking some steps based on your business acumen and the things that you and Sean had done to build your organization and Amherst Group and build those businesses, you simply took some steps to identify resources and figured out a way to add value. You found gaps, and you seem to have a very natural ability to find gaps, whether it be in business or in philanthropic needs. And we'll kind of bring this full circle toward mid-show, but your background in finance and your unique lens seem to have led to scale blessings. Your welcome. Seems odd to talk about return on investment when we talk about philanthropic efforts, but the ROI in this is life-changing for people. And so what we talked about, you and I, a little bit yesterday, is the simple fact of going back to school. Our audience and myself, I know what the first day of school feels like. You know what the first day of school feels like. You know what it feels like to help prepare your children for these transitions in their life. And so, having those name brand backpacks and the new white sneakers on, those things build confidence. Those things build the courage to leave mom and dad and go to school. So some of these kids might have been starting school for the first time. I know as a military brat, just transitioning from one school to another, coming from New Orleans, being displaced, now they're homeless. They don't have the basic supplies. You filled a gap you talked about backpacks. Talk about the supplies and those first steps. And then we're going to talk about what backpacks turned into in reference to your liaisons and what you saw with these liaisons and what you learned about a homeless liaison and what we can each do in our own communities by simply going to public schools and say, hey, how many homeless do you have in your school districts? And these liaisons can help fill resources. So let's kind of start to unpackage some of that, because I'm still learning from you. And you've been doing this 20 years. So you've got a lot of experience with this that I think the audience, and we can connect with the audience. And there are a lot of people I know in my audience that want to help and get on board with initiatives. So talk about backpacks and confidence and the things we talked a little bit about yesterday, that you've had the blessing, right? The guilty blessing of giving to experience this and see these kids thrive.
Well, like most things, I feel like I've probably gotten out of it more than I could ever give. And as I think I told you last night, it's really kind of hard to run a victory lap when the last number that I saw was 650,000 homeless people.
Wow.
And I don't know how many of those break out to be children, but what happened that week of Katrina is that Sunday, it was a Labor Day weekend. So that Sunday, we met Kathy, who was the homeless school liaison, and everyone that worked in her office. And she didn't know us. She asked us if we would bring 10 backpacks. And we obviously could do more than that, but we just kind of said to her, we'll sketch out the entire problem and we'll determine like what we can do when you receive these kids. And so she said, well, she was expecting probably not more than 100 kids and they wouldn't have anything. And so we said, well, we'll bring 100 backpacks and we'll get duffel bags and we'll put clothes, at least 2 days of clothes in the backpacks. And we made like a little duffel bag. By the end of this week, we had collaborated with churches. Journey Church, and those two guys sort of helped us get CapCityKids. It's Jim Cannon and Mike Lawrence from Journey Church, helped us get Cap City off the ground. They worked with us for the first couple of years. I thought I would mention them because I think Mike passed away, but he was super helpful. He was a lawyer and he knew how to turn this into a 501c3. And because at the end of this week, Kathy said, I hope we had an intimate relationship, because I would go turn in my 100 backpacks on Monday and she'd give me a new number. And by the end of the week, it was 1,000 kids.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was amazing. It gave us a whole new meaning in the people that we worked with. And most of the time when we have Amherst off-site, many times there's a CapCityKids component for team building. call the homeless school liaison in whatever city that they're in, having the offsite and figure out what that liaison needs, because every city has different needs for their homeless depending on what other people are doing in that city or what their particular city budget is or school budget.
Well, you mentioned yesterday, I think you referenced a group of women that were providing clothing. And you're like, so we're not going to provide clothing. They're doing that very, very well. We can add value to this program by filling the gaps. So talk about the empowerment academies. So it started with backpacks. You've grown into the empowerment academies. We'll talk about the social work internship program, which is that's just phenomenal, and how you've gotten the University of Texas involved in that. And then we'll also talk about the gift card program. But share with the audience the empowerment academies and the impact you're having there.
So it all starts with Kathy Riquejo, this wonderful homeless school liaison who educated me. So we worked closely with she and her team that week. And at the end of the week, we had a big spaghetti dinner because I was relatively new to Austin, but I called everyone I knew because 1,000 backpacks, you have to collect the supplies plus the clothes. It was a huge endeavor. So we had a spaghetti dinner at one of our employees had an Italian restaurant. It was really fun. We thanked everyone for helping us, and it was sort of the end of the week, like, look what we did. And it was we were really bonded.
Yeah.
Because it was day and night for 5-6 days to these kids into school. We saw them get off the school buses, like a lot, we were delivering our backpacks, and just to deliver 150 backpacks a day is a feat in itself. I mean, only like 20 or 30 fit in the car. So Kathy and her team, of course, attended our spaghetti dinner. And she says to me at the end, Joslyn, we had a great week. So nice to meet you. Thank you for everything. And I hope you're not going to go away, because tonight there's 2,000 kids homeless in Austin, Texas. And the average age is 7.
7 years old.
I said, ooh, I mean, you can't unhear that. I said, I'll be in touch. So he sort of started to think. We had meetings with Mike and Jen and Journey Church and everyone who volunteered, and we're just sort of thinking about how to move forward, what to do. And we eventually decided to do a 501c3. But in the process, I stayed in touch with Kathy, and she was hosting this Empowerment Academy. So we gave them some money, and we went and we volunteered. And we eventually took it over. But what it is at that point, she didn't have the name brand backpacks. People would donate a backpack. It may have a couple of pencils and some paper in it. That's really about it, like a little spiral notebook. But what she was trying to do with Empowerment Academy is bring the people that are deemed McKinney-Vento, which is an act, and there's parameters that a family would meet to be McKinney-Vento, and that's what it required to go to Kathy's Empowerment. The kids would get a no-name backpack and 2 pencils and a notebook. She connected those families to social services. So Kathy would have people there to give vaccinations. Yeah, it wasn't very fun. So we said, well, we can improve upon this. So we took it over and we make it like a carnival. We still have all the social services for the parents, but we have a jumping house outside when you walk in. We have a snow cone truck. Kids walk in. We have a name brand backpack with name brand Elmer's glue, Crayola crayons, packed to the grade that they're going to be in, because every grade has a different requirement that needs to go in their backpack. So we typically do it in a school cafeteria with the stage. Remember the school stages? And we have pre-K through 12 backpacks lined up, and the child can go pick their name brand backpack for their grade and get the color that they want. And then,
don't you feel better when you're dressed up and you show up? Don't you feel more confident walking into a room when you're prepared and you have all the things? Of course, you're talking about 7-year-olds that they just want to learn. They're hungry to learn. These children want to learn. And they're trying to figure out maybe how they're going to eat, right? Or they're worried about their mom and dad. They're taking on very adult-like responsibilities, and they don't have the luxury of being a child. These backpacks represent a moment for them to be a kid, put that on. When they're sitting in a group of other kids and they're coloring, they get to pull out Crayola and not the off-brand crayon. That seems so small when you think about it, but that's so huge. And the impact that has in a child's life that early on, to give them an opportunity to color and just fit in, right? And be a part of something greater, that builds confidence. You used a word yesterday when we were talking, and it eliminates or decreases shame that comes with homelessness. And the shame that these little guys are walking around with. It helps the parents also be confident, right? To know, as parents, we know if my kids are good, I'm good.
That's right.
Right? So I can go hungry. I can skip a shower sometimes, but my kid's going to have a bath. My kid's going to have a meal. And there are many parents I know in my audience that can relate to that, and that your children come first. And so if your kids are thriving, the parents can also take a moment to exhale and say, you know what? Hey, we got through the first 2 days. Because sometimes, and it sounds like this week, this was a day by day. It was getting.
Well, we would think that day that would be the end of our effort. We didn't really understand. Neither did the homeless school liaison office. They were getting calls. We were getting calls right after they did. We didn't know how many kids would be displaced and how many would actually come to Austin. They were going to Houston and Dallas and I think other cities. So we sort of learned when they learned. The reason that I decided to do the name brand backpacks, that came at this moment too. During Katrina, the school starts in Texas in August. So this is Labor Day. So the supplies were low.
Oh, yeah.
We bought whatever we had, and we would send our employees out to all over around Central Texas to Office Depot, Target, wherever. We bought whatever backpacks we could buy, and we weren't focused on the label. We were focused on, I believe the kids have to have a backpack in the state of Texas in order to go to school.
Wow.
I just know that Kathy was like, we got to have the backpacks. It's the most important thing. So that's what we did. But I watched a woman get a backpack from Katrina, be delighted that it was a name brand backpack. And that is why
I resonated with you in that moment. Well, yeah. So
how excited she was for her child to have this. It was teal color. And the little girls,
you remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to remember that forever.
I remember that. Yeah, I have a little 6-month daughter who I'll do anything for, right? And to see this woman with a 9-year-old so delighted that I guess it was her favorite color, and she picked it out of a group, and she was, just so happy.
Yeah.
She lost everything, and she was delighted that her daughter was going to have this teal, her favorite color, brand name.
Because it doesn't matter. Yeah, you can lose everything, I think, but your kids are going to be your focus. And when you're rebuilding, it's 1 hour at a time. Some days it's 1 day at a time. And so in that moment, you gave them that opportunity. Over 20,000 backpacks later, over 100,000 hours of counseling. Over 10,000 hygiene kits. These are some of the numbers that I've uncovered as I've worked with your team and you to prepare for this interview. And those numbers are just shocking to me. It has happened 1 year at a time, and we are 20 years later. Why did you, so you continue to go through the school districts instead of creating a standalone program? You met Kathy, you were working with Journey Church. You didn't just go stand this up. And this is something we talked about yesterday. You didn't just go stand up something new. You joined the local school districts instead of creating a standalone program. Now, there's parts of your program that have become standalone, such as the counseling, over 100,000 hours of counseling and social work. Talk to us about this. I love this part that you shared with me yesterday. This is something I didn't know, and how you collaborated with the University of Texas. And you also mentioned the woman that had shared with us, the woman that heads up this program to this day, and the big impact that she had, and was recognized as Social Worker of the Year that is heading up this program. So share this with us. This is just amazing.
Well, we had a dinner in Central Texas where we had all the homeless school liaisons attend. And in social work, they don't have many dinners. Like in business, we have a dinner for everything. 2 or 3 times a week we go to dinner, but in social work, it's pretty rare. So we had a dinner at a top of a hotel, long table, maybe 20 liaisons. And we said, educate us. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you see in your districts, in your families. And so they did. And one lady said, look, we are in dire need of social workers. There's no budget for it. And I have an idea. I think that you could collaborate with the University of Texas, because this woman was a PhD in social work. She was a head of a big school district close to Austin. And she said, for a graduation requirement to be a social worker, you have to have 20 hours a week of field service for an entire year. I think it's 2 years, but they sort of designated a year at a time. So that's September through May. So she said, if you pay, and it was a lot of money at the time. I think if you pay one master level social worker, she can supervise up to 8 or 10 interns who could then be in these marginalized schools and be talking to the children from September through May, which is a lot of consistency.
Yeah.
And what we didn't really go over, but you touched on, was the harsh reality that a lot of these kids face and the trauma. Like, we send our kids to school ready to learn. Sometimes these kids aren't in school. They go to school, they're sent to school, but they might not be ready to learn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're dealing with some horrific situations, the gamut, incarcerated parents that have passed away, all kinds of trauma. They're transient. They may be living in a car. The common thread is they have instability, typically. So these social workers can provide them some stability from September through May. So her name was Lupita. She explained how it worked. Kathy Raquejo, she knew very well. So this is all about connecting in relationships. And I had this trust with Kathy because I've been producing these backpacks for several years now, a couple years. I'm showing up every time I say I'm going to show up. I'm giving her everything that I say I'm giving her and more. And so there's trust. We have built trust. So Kathy says, look, I'll help. And Lupita said, well, you need the University of Texas, because somebody needs to talk to the University of Texas. We need these students. We need a student. So Kathy knew Tanya Voss, who was the Dean of Field Services at the University of Texas. Kathy and Tanya had a close working relationship and some trust. Tanya came to the meeting and she said, this sounds fabulous. She was in charge of placing the interns, but only if I can have Kate Amerson. Now, we're pioneering this program and everybody wants to make sure it goes well. We don't really know each other. So everyone has sort of a, arm's length trust. Right. Kathy's telling Tanya, Kathy's sort of vouching for me. And Tanya is looking to Kathy. And now we need Kate Amerson, because the only way Tanya will do it is if she has Kate, because Tanya's worked closely with Kate. And Tanya knows that Kate can, this kind of entrepreneurial, innovate this program, and she trusts her to do it. So now she ran the program for 10 years. We have a new person now. She retired. And she kidded me. I'm like, Kate, it'll be fun. We'll have fun. And as we're doing this, like, there's some moments that are difficult. She's like, Joslyn, are we having fun?
Yeah. Because she'd always bring it back. Are we having fun yet?
But she was brilliant. And the program has been needle moving. We did have a lot of fun. She was in charge of it for 10 years. The program won a national award, and she got Social Worker of the Year one year.
Wow. That's great.
And now to this day, so a new person, Sarah, joined after Kate. And this program was so successful, AISD, Austin Independent School District, now pays a master level social worker, and the program is doubled.
Wow. Okay.
Under Sarah.
So let's bring that full circle. You had the school liaison at the dinner, right? So what do we naturally do? We're like, let's create a dinner, because this is what we do in business side of things. You bring them in, you have a dinner. One very brave woman says, I have an idea. Let's get the University of Texas. These students have boxes to check on field work. You're identifying resources, creating triangles of winning on every level, right? So it's everyone involved is winning in some way, and you're utilizing resources that are established and just connecting the dots. You are a connector of dots, Joslyn, leveraging your relationships. I mean, let's face it, this is how Amherst and Main Street Renewal went from no homes to 50,000 homes, because you found resources in local communities and local markets, and it was to rehab homes, but you took those same practices when you applied them here in a very philanthropic way. And that is this, I'm going to bring it back up again. That is this public-private partnerships, where you have government-run programs where private sector can come in and add value and innovation and funding, and the operations that go in. I mean, just filling 1,000 backpacks, like you talked about, hey, we had all the backpacks lined up, but how about actually getting those backpacks filled? Right? That takes massive effort. And so now we're at the University of Texas, and these students now are going in as part of their field services, 20 hours of field work, September through May, and they're working with these kids, and they're creating consistency. And that's what I heard you say, right? So a couple keywords here. We talked about,
you're able to fill some holes for that child,
right?
That the stability, and adding just another layer of care, because the teacher, and somewhere for the teacher to go with a troubled child, because if there's no social worker, what can the teacher do? They have too many kids, right? So that child will get lost. Maybe they're super quiet and they don't participate, or maybe they cause a lot of trouble, keeping the other kids from learning. So to have a social worker or somewhere for the teacher to go with that child that's what I hear, the constant feedback that comes back through the school counselors when we have a dinner also at the end of every school year to celebrate our current interns. And we invite all of our prior interns, the alumni.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really fun. We all get to see each other. I think we have close to 150 students at this point that we've trained.
Right.
So back to leverage. Okay. You train one social worker and they go out and help thousands of people in their lives. That's leverage.
That's leverage. Got it.
And then there's something we haven't thought of. Sorry.
Yeah, that's duplication. That's scale.
But how do you leverage, like, rewriting a portion of someone's life or changing their life and helping sort of human potential? Because, like, when you learn something, what is the first thing that you do is you tell your children.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Or
That's
you
what I do too. I bug my child. Look at me at.
Well, what are those students when they're learning, right? And they have these interns coming into the school. You spoke. We spoke a little bit yesterday about this. Is like what some of the interns are coming back and saying is, the kid is getting a good grade or they did something presentation, but now they have somebody else in their life they want them to be proud of. So they're going back and they're actually happy about saying, "Hey, I made you proud. You worked with me. You helped me become smarter, stronger, all these things. And now I went and did this." And don't I know when I'm around people who have invested in me, I don't want to let them down. It inspires me to put in my best effort and think about different things. So now you've rerouted the mental thoughts and and all of the emotional stuff that these kids are going through where they're homeless, they're worried about their parents, let alone their parents worried about them. They're carrying very adult-like responsibilities. And for a moment again now, you've provided a platform that you said earlier, they might not have been ready to learn because they're dealing with trauma. This carves out moments, September through May. This carves out a moment in their life where they get consistency and get to experience working through something, learning something new, following through with it, earning the success of that, being able to reap the rewards. And again, just another guilty pleasure of us, you getting to now sit back and see all this unfold. And this thing is, your team at Amherst has taken this. I was out on the golf course yesterday, and there was a girl who just came to work in your organization. And she said, I worked in Wall Street in New York. I was really burnt out on corporate environments. And I took this job at Amherst because they're different. Those are the different areas of, I think, impact that maybe you don't always realize this trickle effect of what CapCityKids has really done within your own business and your organization and reaching out to younger students who aren't even in social work. This girl is in finance and was saying, "Hey, I don't like this environment." But now she's like, "But I love finance and I love real estate," and found a home at Amherst Group because your organization, you're setting the standard for private sector and you're bringing to light public-private partnerships. And so you're a trailblazer for private sector to get involved with government agencies and add value and have massive impact in our industry, in the single family rental industry. And it's crazy how things come together, right? And now Everesi Media, our job is to amplify the good that's happening in this industry. And here's just yet another story. The beginning, we're 20 years in, but I still feel like you're in the very beginning phases of what this is going to turn into and what are the next steps. So you shared with me, I'm looking at some of my questions. I'm like, we've tackled them very naturally having this conversation. Joslyn, you're a blessing to.
Oh, you're so thank. It's the whole firm. I mean, at the beginning, I think I told you it wasn't always so popular to actually move a 501c3 inside of a capitalist real estate investment bank. And to the credit really of Sean and the C-suite, I mean, they said go anyway.
Yeah.
How we felt about each other after that week of Katrina changed everything. We worked with people we normally wouldn't have worked with. That's what happens when you volunteer. You see someone on a different level.
100%.
For sure.
It's driven the culture that I felt, second year at your golf tournament yesterday. The culture of your employees and your organization is that of giving. And you feel that in the presence of your employees. So what's next for CapCityKids? New cities? Can we make a call to our audience on something small maybe each of us could do in our cities? And what initiatives, ways to scale? What would for me in Charlotte, North Carolina, if I want to take one small step, that I know and you've proven can lead to very big steps. What would you recommend I do, or someone in the audience say, wow, I want to do something? What's something we can do?
You can call your local homeless school liaison and ask for what her needs are. Because he or him, there's men too, but every city will have a particular need. Atlanta is our largest market where we have homes, but Atlanta is home to many Fortune 500 companies. So that homeless school liaison didn't have a ton of needs. They change every year, but she really needs like the hygiene kits. So in Atlanta, we pack hygiene kits. Whereas Phoenix, that homeless school liaison needs food.
Wow.
There's not a lot of corporate donors. So
the audience, and you're in Phoenix, reach out to the local homeschool liaison or homeless school liaison. And there's a call for food in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, yeah, Phoenix needed food, right? So
each city is different in their needs.
Every city's different, and every year will be different. It depends on what the budget is for the school district, and it depends on what the government gives them. And then you as a private person, I mean, that's what we kind of triangulated. Yeah, right? A major school district, a concerned citizen, we're the concerned citizens, and a major university. But you just call the school district and provide, it's there for you. You just write a grant. You can give money if you want to, because, every school district has wishes that aren't filled, needs aren't filled.
100%. EverResi.com. We went ahead and put a donate link for CapCityKids on our website.
Oh, thank you.
You are so welcome. If you feel moved today by this amazing story, I know I do, reach out to ResiGives. We can help get you connected. We'll lean on Joslyn and her team to identify areas. And if you want to get involved in, and we can find areas we can add value out there. So let's dream big for a minute. I'm a big dreamer. Anyone that knows me says Yvonne's got a lot of energy and she's a dreamer. I suspect you're a pretty big dreamer too, Joslyn. In the short minute I've gotten to get to know you, and I have a feeling you and I are going to become closer friends. I want to help you do greater things. Let's say it's 2030 and beyond. What could success look like?
That's an interesting question. Well, what I'm doing right now, I think the way that I can help the most people, I've never really talked about this work much before. So I'm starting to talk about it now. So I appreciate you calling to interview me.
Yeah.
But I'm writing white papers. I have probably half written. I hired a graphic artist, so you can have an empowerment academy, or you can just take any of these programs that we pioneered and innovated and run them in your own city. So I think that's what success looks like to me, is that my programs are duplicated.
Copy paste.
Or maybe that liaison has a particular need and you read my paper and say, tweak it.
Yeah. Well, because you didn't even know you were creating this public-private partnership, right? Program.
No.
You were just doing what you thought was best at the moment. And so I look forward to you sharing more. I'm going to jump into your white papers, connect with Joslyn on LinkedIn. You're sharing some of these white papers and what are some of these basic things you can do. You're documenting and you're giving away this information for free because that's what you do, right? You're an educator and a social scientist. Well,
I've enjoyed the work a lot. The collaborations have been impactful, particularly surrounding the University of Texas. I love social workers. They're the most interesting people. The education is second to none. I mean, I think anybody would benefit from a social work education.
Yeah.
They can communicate beautifully. They know how to solve problems. I learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
Go there with the problem and the answers usually never no.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we make this?
How can we? Yeah, and I think education is key, and homelessness, filling that gap. And then there becomes a need for more education from that standpoint. So once they become not homeless and they can start to now really get educated on how do you build a sustainable future for your family, generations to come, right? I know you and I were talking briefly about some of your next thoughts. So I'm not going to spoiler alert, but I think you're going to move on to do some things around creating wealth. And once you become not homeless, and now how do you grow and develop wealth as an individual or of a family and give back to your community? So Joslyn, thank you, and Sean, and a special thank you to the entire Amherst group for allowing ResiGives to be a part of this incredible milestone, and for you sharing your story with us today. At the heart of every thriving community is a child who just needed someone to believe in them. Sometimes it's just that basic. And for 20 years, CapCityKids has been that someone. Joslyn, thank you for your heart and your vision and for showing what's possible when a community comes together with purpose. I appreciate you, and I am honored that you allowed me to interview you on something that you haven't shared. And I'm going to help amplify this and help you share this more. So thank you again for joining today.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for your passion and illuminating. There's a lot of real estate companies doing amazing things. I know you'll find them and illuminate there. Thank you for everything you're doing. You have great energy.
Thank you very, very much. And I'm going to get it out there. And thank you to the audience. Go to everresi.com. Click on the link. $2, $5, $10. It doesn't take a lot. I think what Joslyn has demonstrated today, the power of scale, and when we come together, the impact that we can have. So thank you, and look forward to next time. Thank you for tuning in.